Hi, and welcome back to the Spirit of Winter podcast show. If you chimed in on our last show or listened to our last show, we were talking about are your relationships making you sick? If you did, you noticed I made several few key tips that to regain your health and your energy. But today we're going to get a little deeper dive on healing ourselves from relationships and healing thyself, period. I had a great opportunity to interview an amazing chef. Her name is Chef B on my most recent summit. I will share with you just a brief clip on her journey to realizing the food that she was putting on her body was affecting her in a much deeper level. What we're going to do is really break down the steps that she took to really coming to the conclusion of making the spirit mind body connection. Check it out.
Our bodies need different things. And because our bodies need different things, we eat different things. And so for me, emotionally as well, I was going through a lot of different things. Probably in my 30s, I had been married. The relationship was rocky. I had a new child. I was starting a new position at a college as a professor. And so with all of those changes, you're looking for comfort, you're looking for, things that's going to give you just ease in your mind. And so the things I was reaching for were not necessarily plant-based. All right. And as a result, when I had my first child, I developed preeclampsia, had gained a lot of weight. And I was like, oh my gosh, my doctor was like, yeah, we got to figure out how to get this under control. And because I knew what to do, it was very easy to really just get focused and start working out, eating differently. And I think the thing that really just helped me to see that plant-based is the way to go is 7 years after I had my first child, I was in a new relationship and I had gotten pregnant again at 42. And in getting pregnant at 42, I was considered high risk. Also, because I had a cesarean the first pregnancy, I was being pushed in the direction of a cesarean for the second child. And when I spoke to one of my really good friends who's a doctor, she's like, look, they'll cut you if they have to. You can shift, you can do some things differently so that you can control the outcomes of your pregnancy, right? And so she was like, just change your diet. So I was very diligent. And it wasn't just eating plant-based. It was eating plant-based. It was really being protective of my mind, protective of my time, managing stress, really incorporating spirituality for the pregnancy, and just being very disciplined and consistent with how I ate. And from all of those things, it wasn't just the one thing, it's all of those things, the sum total of all those things. I was able to have a vaginal birth at 42. So they call that a VBAC. It's a vaginal birth after cesarean. That's what VBAC stands for. No blood pressure issues because I had dealt with blood pressure issues in the first pregnancy. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like this is it. This is the way to be. And then the more I picked up, the more resources I picked up, I learned that eating plant-based can absolutely reverse so many of the chronic issues that our people are dealing with. Preeclampsia, that can address that. High blood pressure, hyperlipidemia, which is high cholesterol, diabetes, obesity, even some of these autoimmune diseases, gut issues, incorporating more plants in your diet the right way, because everyone's different, can absolutely shift your outcomes if you're dealing with some health challenges. And I had that experience for myself. So I was like, yeah, that solidified the work that I was doing. I was already talking that talk, but then just having my own personal transformation and being on that journey was incredible. So that's me. And that's why I do what I do. think it's important. And I do want to say, for those of you who are listening, plant-based does not mean that you have to give up everything that you're eating. That's what people think. Eating plant-based means that you are making a commitment to yourself to incorporate more plants in your diet, more plants on your plate when you're eating. And actually, if you look at the right kind of plate, like from a nutrition standpoint, if you look at what your plate should look like, so your plate is a circle, half of your plate should be fibrous foods, fruits and veggies. A sixth of your plate, because this is now the other half, a sixth of your plate should be protein. We didn't say animal-based protein, we just said protein. So it could be plant-based protein. Another sixth of your plate should be healthy fats. And then the last sixth of your plate should be carbohydrates. So if you look at that plate, it's plants. It's mostly plants. And if you eat consistently like that, incorporate hydration appropriately daily, get your rest, manage your stress, stop eating by a certain time, really manage your gut health. Man, you can do so many wonderful things for your body. And so giving up, you don't have to give up everything when you're thinking about a plant-based lifestyle. It's about now shifting your mindset to incorporate more of the plants into the diet and crowding out the things that really aren't serving you and your body. The more you do that, and the more you're interrogating how you feel as you bring in more healthy foods, you really start thinking, okay, I feel better when I eat this, and I don't feel as good when I eat this. We have to get back to the mindfulness versus the reactiveness of our lives. Many of us are just eating and we're reacting. Oh, I'm feeling this way, so they eat. We have to slow down. So if you're really thinking about what you're putting in your mouth, thinking about what you're putting in your mind, your thoughts, thinking about who you're around, slowing down and interrogating those things, you'll start to see, okay, dang, I need to make some changes. The problem is we're not slowing down enough to interrogate those things. And that's why we're in some of the predicaments that we're in.
Very great presentation. Just a short clip. If you took note of what she said in terms of the beginning of the health challenges as it relates to during her pregnancy, she made note of a couple things. One was her relationship, not only with someone else, but her relationship with herself. And then she had a pregnancy in terms of dealing with the relationship with the baby. And when we looked at it collectively, it started with relationships. And she got to really, really take a deep dive on, what's affecting her relationship with food. And she noted that changing her eating habits from comfort food as she's stressing or going through stuff to going to plant-based raw food was a game changer. Why is that? Why is that so? Well, comfort food, let's look at it. Comfort foods are generally processed fast food, chemical, a lot of food coloring and everything that the body has a hard time to break down and digest. 30% of what we put in our gut affects our brain. It slows ours down and it clouds our thinking, but it also reduces our energy. Whereas she went to plant-based, less processed foods, the body can identify it. That means it could digest it a lot quicker. It's more energy, so it's raw foods. So it's bring about more energy in the body. And what you put in your gut affects how you think. It brought about awareness of, wow, I'm feeling different. I'm not responding different. My body's feeling different. And that was her journey I could relate to when I took my journey to my realization of spirit, mind, body connection. When you start evaluating the things you can control, it really helped to realize you might be going through some things, but I have to see one, who am I hanging out with? Who's my influencer? What are their beliefs? What are their thoughts? What's going on with them? And what am I thinking about myself? And how am I feeling about myself? This is where her beginning started, and she started making a progression. When she started to really go through a healing process, if you remember, in one relationship, she had a bad relationship, and a pregnancy wasn't a healthy one. She was having complication in her pregnancy. And then she went into a new relationship with a higher awareness, but eating mostly raw foods, taking note of things that she needed to protect. If you note that she started protecting was her mind. She started evaluating who was around her and how were they influencing her thinking. She was thinking about what she was thinking as well. And Dr. Joe Dispenza, when it comes to the topic of mind over matter, he says that your thoughts have a profound effect and your belief have a profound effect on your health and your experience. These are the two things where she got to weigh who is around me and what am I eating and how am I feeling. She started to protect herself, meaning she wasn't in victim mode. She started to take her power back and saying, if this food is affecting me like this, I can change this. If I'm hanging around these certain people and I'm thinking like this, I need to choose a different crowd because it's not helping me right now. When we look at the mind and our thoughts, we think a lot of thoughts. And 90% of thoughts, according to studies, are not even true. So, what am I thinking? What am I feeling? Who's around me? And what am I eating? I'm not a victim. I'm in control. She allowed herself to be more in control of what was going on in her mind and body than less, and moving on to having a healthier baby without having a surgery. But what she also mentioned too is stress. Stress is when it's super high in the body, it causes a lot of issues with the body. And she had to sit down and really realize what is influencing my stress and what levels of stress and how am I managing things. And it's almost like you driving a vehicle. When you let stress control you, you don't know where you're going because your body is going to be out of control as well, and your mind. You really lose the will as to where you'd like to be because your body is out of what you call homeostasis, it's out of balance. And when you get to look at what is influencing the stress, how am I managing, and bring it to awareness of what you can control, at what level control, and what you can do so you don't be overstressed, that's when you start to take back your power. And what she did note, most people are very reactive, meaning life happens and they eat. Life happens and they respond instead of taking a step back and coming to awareness of what is happening, what am I eating, what am I thinking, and how can I make some changes. The real shift that happened was when she started to elevate and look at her spirituality. And why do I say that? I want to just share an analogy with you that everything I mentioned earlier, meaning relationships, your food, your thoughts, the stress in your body, and spirituality all has energy. Your food has a certain level of frequency. Your thoughts emits a vibration of frequency. Your feelings emits a frequency. Everything physically has energy, a frequency, and it affects our bodies. It affects our minds. But the true shift that I can relate to was her identity. When she started looking at her spirituality, and when you look at frequency and energy, if you look at I know if people listening to this, if you ever had a light bulb and the light bulbs have 30 watt, 40 watt, 50 watt, 100 watts, they emit a certain amount of light. When we look at food, processed foods, it's low vibration. It's going to bring the energy of the body down because our bodies are electric. They run off electric. Our cells need electricity to live. When we put these low vibrational foods in our bodies, it makes us feel low energy. It doesn't make us feel good. And then we don't feel good. We're attracting low vibrational people with low frequency. And then we look at our beliefs, and our beliefs have a certain frequency, low vibration. When we look at our identity, what God says we are versus who we say we are, as it relates to life, ourselves, and how we're supposed to be, then we going at a super high frequency. We at such a level that when we look at our life, when we look at our body, we have a higher awareness that we don't have to think certain thoughts that are negative because who we really are in nature is a higher level than what our human self says we are. And so when I got on this path, like she mentioned, she said most people just are reactive. I started taking note on my journey, and it started with food. I was eating plant based at the time. I was not having relationship issues with somebody else. My relationship came with at the time I was traveling a lot. I was on the road speaking a lot, and I was on a radio show. I was starting to have foggy brain. It felt really strange. It's like a brain fog. We had a speaker that we had on the show who was a holistic coach. I told her my symptoms, and she said to come to see her. She said, it sounds like you have overgrowth bacteria in your body. And I was like, well, I'm already eating raw foods. But what I did was I went to not just, not, I wasn't eating raw, I was eating vegetarian. It wasn't mostly raw foods. I turned to eating raw foods, which is uncooked, a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables, unprocessed foods, to more mostly raw. I started feeling a shift in my energy. I didn't notice my emotional body. Stress and how I was managing my stress was causing some gut issues. And what I started doing was starting very much like the chef did. I started paying attention. I started journaling. It actually influenced me creating my own journal, which I tracked a lot of things in there. There's multiple things to track in there to bring yourself more conscious of not being a victim, but what can I control and how can I manage my body and my life better by being more conscious. And that process of doing that has helped me not only to heal and have a higher awareness, but to know that everything begins with me. When we talk about the topic today is heal by stop making low vibration a choice. We get to choose. I get to choose the vibration that I want to consume, put in my body. I get to choose the vibration of people that I'd like to be around, but I also get to pay attention of the thoughts that I'm vibrating out to the universe, and I can control those, whether being true or false, as it relates to my decisions. Whatever path you're on right now as it relates to healing yourself, just know that you can heal yourself. I hope you got a lot of great tips from this broadcast or this recording. I appreciate it if you can like, subscribe, and share it with someone. Watch the next video for our next topic. If you're interested in the wellness journal that I have, please note in the comments section wellness journal, and we send you some information on the journal. I will see you on the next show.